It's your buddy Peace and Harmony here with you here today. How to resolve self-doubt after going through an emotionally abusive relationship or family pattern. Self-doubt is created in a person when there's a lot of negative self-talk going on in the mind of that individual who's gone through the abuse. Negative self-talk is usually unconscious, which means it's usually ingrained in a habitual pattern within that person, and it's usually created from a projection of being around a very negative, judgmental, critical, toxic sort of person. And oftentimes these type of people who are excessively judgmental, critical, belittling, are found to have personality disorders, which can be classified by DSM-3R in that manual used by mental health professionals as having a personality disorder. Now, these people have an emotional inadequacy, or that they just don't have a repertoire to relate to people in a sort of empathetic, compassionate way. They're generally not very good listeners. They're extremely self-interested to the point of divesting others of really quite a bit of their communication, listening to them, and this in essence, or as a result, will create an environment for this person who has been exposed to this emotional abuse. It will create a very negative environment where this constant mirroring back of negative qualities, or being around a lot of violence and anger and shouting or slamming of doors or throwing things, or constant belittlement, tends to be almost placed in the seat of the mind or the seat of the soul of the person who is on the receiving end, unintentionally or unwarranted, from that abuse. And so what ends up happening is the person, especially if you're married to them or living with them, they cannot escape. So it tends to be a chronic and repetitive programming that is embedded in the person and in the mind and in the soul of this person, and we call that emotional abuse. Especially emotional abuse becomes extremely dysfunctional and crippling for the person who has undergone that. Very hard to identify and document, especially if there's no witness. However, the testimony and stories of those people who have undergone it will know exactly what we're referencing here. And like physical abuse, emotional abuse also incurs wounds, although what they call psychic wounds or psychological wounds, where it's injurious to the person and it creates a sort of, you've heard, hurt your feelings. But it tends to then go deeper in that, where the person, experiences such a loss of self-worth that they don't feel, comfortable. They don't feel a sense of comfort and ease in their life anymore. They are experiencing a tremendous amount of self-doubt as a result of this. And it becomes a vicious cycle, basically, where they get into this rut of feeling this way, as impacted, as mirrored by this abusive person. So one thing in resolving this, trying to get over this, becomes with understanding that this person was mirroring back to you or projecting onto you their own insecurities, their own fear, and those were not qualities that were actually assigned to you. Those qualities are not actually attributed to you. You happen to be in the way, you happen to be there, you happen to be associated with this person. And maybe you did not see this in the beginning. Maybe you were, this is your family member and you had no choice in the matter. Or maybe you have exposed the narcissist or the psychopath and learned that, they were on their quote unquote, there's our quote unquote, they were on their quote unquote best behavior around you in the beginning. They wined you, dined you, sweet talked you, took you on trips, wild and passionate sex. It was like heaven on earth, and then you learn some other details about them. You've exposed them, you've seen something horrific and catastrophic, that there's a whole, wolf in the sheep's clothing. It's a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation where you've learned that this person is not really who you thought they were. And it comes, it's very common for someone to belittle themselves and say, I misjudged you, I made a mistake. And then you want to tell them, I made a mistake in choosing you. Well, you don't really want to have that conversation with them. It becomes more of an inner game when you learn these lessons. So that's why I definitely recommend in your recovery journal, have a lessons learned page, so that you can keep track of these things in life. Any successful business owner, heads of corporation, they're gonna take stock of their business and what makes their business go down and what makes their profit rise. You have to do the same thing with yourself. If this person makes your energy go down, your self-worth go down, your feelings of enjoyment in life go down, you're at a loss. You are, what do they say, getting in the red. You're operating in the danger zone. And so you have to reevaluate and, make some changes. Just like any business, the same is true, really, I think, with a person. And so if you found that this emotional abuse is creating that whole negative impact on you, realize, for one, the consciousness of this person and that they have, for some ungodly reason, an ulterior motive for making other people feel belittled. That's just how they are. It is how they operate. They've probably been this way their entire life, and it tends to only get worse with time. So if you think that you're going to help them through this and help them, ease up and not be so harsh and so critical and so belittling and judgmental, chances are that's going to be inaccurate. So first is realizing that the consciousness of this person, that is really who they are. I mean, if they have the ability to lead a double life or have no emotional attachment to humane interests such as their own family, their own possessions, their own pets, and to other people in general, and they don't mind violating a lot of other very common sense sort of rules of treating people and courtesies, then they're capable of some very dangerous things. And so realize that's the mentality of the person who has caused you to feel this self-doubt, and it is not coming from within you, because really within each person there's a homeostasis, there's a balance, and there's a connection to a higher good. Things that you love, things that you're good at, things that connect you to people in life that are meaningful to you. However, with the chronic exposure to emotional abuse, it tends to sever that, and you are divested from these human emotions and this human ability to connect. And when I say divest, as I've said in previous videos, divesting is a verb. It is a verb, which means it's an active, ongoing thing. So if you're with someone who is divesting you of your ability to feel positive and function, then you need to realize this and realize that a lot of that negativity, you were just almost like in the way of it. Think of it that way. It's almost like a storm. You walked into a storm, but you can walk out of the storm, or you can get an umbrella. And once you can remove yourself from that influence, start getting out of the environment, out of the repeated treatment, you're going to start to see those symptoms subside. Now, if you have encountered this chronically, you might be going through a lot of flashbacks, a lot of still that negative thinking. Some of it can be very severe. However, realize that is going to subside if you can, extricate them from your environment and then begin working some of the tools that we've discussed here on this channel, Peace and Harmony. So please examine this, and please, work on your affirmations and start saying, I can. When your negative self-doubt creeps in, and you're thinking that you can't, and you feel a sense of that you can't trust yourself, you can trust yourself. You just have to waken up that voice within you and make it stronger. And it will begin to be your best ally and your best friend again within you. Peace and harmony here with you here today. Please share and subscribe for more great tools, videos, and discussions. Have a beautiful day.